All right, let's go ahead and get started. So as you probably have inferred by now, we are talking about a Drupaler's Guide to Marketing. Previous title was a Technologist's Guide to Marketing, so that was the printed version for a while. Naming things is hard. Today we're going to be talking about the needs of marketers. I will not be talking about how to get yourself marketed as a Drupal person. Not talking about getting business cards or billboard ads or Instagram or things like that. Much more, who are marketers? What do they think about what's important to them? From the perspective of, well, actually, and I'll just do the audience participation part of this right now. How many of us, I'm curious, build, plan, design something Drupal for a living? Do something with Drupal, that's the job. Doing it for others. All right. How many of us feel like, oh, and for the internet viewing audience, that was pretty much everybody in the room. How many of us feel like over the last 2 to 3 years, the people who are taking in your work increasingly have the title something, something, something marketing? See a head nods and fair number of hands going up, almost the same amount. And just by like height of your hand, how comfortable are you with knowing what those people do? Like up here is like, yeah, totally got it, and like down here is like, all right, got some, all right, so that's a good, all right, so middle. So the goal of this presentation is to move that up higher. That's what we're trying to do today. We're trying to get people more confident about what marketers need. My name is Drew Gorton. I am the Director of Developer Relations at Pantheon. If you're not familiar with Pantheon, we are the best place to run a Drupal site on the planet. There are a bunch of us here. We've got a booth downstairs. Happy to talk about all those things. I started my web career as a developer back in the late 90s, and then I did more web development things, and then eventually am now in marketing after some twists and turns and such. So I've had this journey myself, and I very much, there's a saying in the Drupal community, come for the code, stay for the community. That was absolutely me. I was sort of like the technologist's avenue into this thing, and later on realized that I needed to learn to talk to marketers, and become one, in fact. Aside from all that stuff, I also enjoy cooking, languages, I speak a few, and board games and other nerdy things. By the way, if anyone else here enjoys board games or other nerdy things, or Foursquare, or karaoke, or anything else tonight, we have a party at, I think, 6 o'clock or 6:30. It's really fun and casual. There's a food truck and everything. And I'm happy to talk about any of those things anytime. That's all my Internet Connect stuff. All right, so I work for Pantheon. We do Drupal and WordPress. That's what we do. We provide infrastructure for people building, hosting, deploying Drupal and WordPress. So we have some, I want to just start with big picture trends that we see. So what we think is going on in the Drupal market and the web in general is, first of all, it's really big. So sorry, just like a point of order, is this visible in the back? I did not check before. Okay, good, all right. I thought I saw a squinting eye and it was a moment of panic there. Anyways, so Gartner is tracking $190 billion spent every year on web stuff, on websites specifically. That is a lot. I mean, we hear about ads, especially recently that's been in the news and such. There have been some issues with ads at some of the ad providers. But that's actually a smaller market. The amount of money that's spent on ads is actually smaller than the amount of money spent on websites. So there's a lot going on out there. We think of the world like this, and this is sort of like our mental model of the way that is happening. So we think there's kind of like the mom and pop kinds of websites, like smaller, use your Wix, use your Squarespace, GoDaddy. You might use WordPress.com, that's Automatic. Automatic is for those more familiar with the Drupal space, Automatic is like the Acquia kind of company in the WordPress space. And then on the far side, we see the enterprise, and the things that we see in the enterprise are Adobe. That's where Acquia, the company that's Drupal's founder, really likes to play. Sitecore is another technology there. And in the middle is really the sweet spot for Drupal and WordPress, particularly. And that's also Pantheon, sort of like where we are. Drupal and WordPress, super strong in that market. Like 65% of the websites out there in that chunk are Drupal and WordPress. So a lot of Drupal and WordPress going on. When you zoom into it, though, this is kind of that section of the chart looked at a different way. But we're looking at 4 different technologies. If you get rid of all of the no CMS used or anything like that, and you look at the distribution of the technologies used in that range, on the far left side we see companies between 1 and 5 million in revenue. Organization between 1 and 5 million in revenue. And over here on the far side, the other side, I guess that would be the right side. I might have gotten my stage directions wrong there. On the right side, it's over 10 billion, and it's just gradations from there. And then the light blue is WordPress. So as you look at this, we kind of know this story, right? WordPress is used for a lot of sites, but they tend to be smaller. But, and dark blue is Drupal. And so you see this, the strength in Drupal really is starting, the thicker bands, although there is definitely some smaller stuff. The thicker bands really start at $10 million in revenue or more. It's kind of the people who are Drupaling. Red is Adobe, and pink is Sitecore here. So this is, this is data that we put together. We think it's pretty accurate. It's probably not down to the exact, it's definitely not down to the penny, but it's based on research, and this is how we try to figure out what we're doing. So we think it's pretty accurate. And also, because this is a small enough room and group and you're all smart people, does anybody have questions or observations about any of this sort of setting of the stage, as it were? Does this ring true? Actually, maybe just like head, nods. Does it, like, for people who are, if you like find where you are, like our clients are typically in this range, that seems about right. Or not. I mean, doesn't just have to be validation here. All right, I'm getting nods or time to check phone. All right. Yeah.
I was just wondering if the companies in your set are also including digital marketing and advertising agencies, like very large ones that use Sitecore and things like that usually you would come across until it gets to 10 billion and up range.
So I'll try to restate the question. Actually, could you restate the question?
Oh yeah, I was just wondering if the companies that are included in these ranges, is this just all users of CMS systems in general, or is this more, does this also include people whose businesses are managing sites for multiple clients, some Ogilvy type large agency?
Short answer is yes, but I should probably do a better job of explaining what we're looking at here. So these are the websites of major organizations, broken, and so that could be, locally here, the Guthrie Theater, or it could be Target, or it could be, so it's just a lot of websites. So look at a wide swath of the internet, and then evaluate what their home pages are running. So it's pretty broad. I mean, lots of organizations have another site or 38 or something else like that. So it's not, again, like I mentioned, it's kind of thin. But so in the case of Ogilvy, for example, it would be what's Ogilvy itself running. But if they're managing 50 sites for 50 other people, Nike or whomever, if we looked at Nike, Nike's tech would show up in here. No. Any other questions or observations? Drupal recently, another thing, actually, a colleague of mine, Steve Persh, is in the audience. I think he's presenting on WordPress actually tomorrow. One of the things I think you might hear in that session is talking about WordPress's mission, which is to democratize publishing. It's a very powerful message, a very powerful mission, very simple, very direct. Drupal hasn't had that for a deeply ingrained what is our mission. But I think the thing that we hear most frequently now is it's for ambitious digital experiences. Has anyone else heard that phrase? Oh, we got a couple emphatic hands there. That's the thing I hear the most. And I think, again, you see, like, again, based on this, the dark blue bands are in the places where people have budgets to do things. Another thing I think those dark blue bands all have, though, is the commonality of ambitious digital experiences are for marketers, right? So those are the people who want the ambitious digital experience. It's not the CTO, it's not the technology officer at an organization. It is somebody who's trying to communicate, trying to do something on behalf of the organization. And I think there's a real problem for Drupal. And Dries actually highlighted this in his keynote this last DrupalCon, and I heard it from a lot of other people. And what's going on is WordPress and these, so from the bottom up, there's a lot of sort of a lot of marketing use. A lot of marketers are quite familiar with WordPress. Like they've come up, it's a handy, nice tool, it's easy to use. There's a ton of plugins, there's a ton of resources out there to figure out how to do marketing effectively with WordPress. And on the other side, something like Adobe, they have a huge sales team, and what they do is they go out enterprise sales style, which is a very particular kind of sales cycle. And if anybody has questions about that, we can maybe unpack some of that. And they'll find the chief marketing officer at a very large corporation and say, you need to buy our $300 million CMS, or something like that. I don't know how much, but it's like jaw-droppingly large. And they'll manage to convince them that CMSs should cost very large numbers of money, or very large amounts of money. And Drupal is in the middle. Like, it's cool because there's actually maybe opportunity to do this with your hands and spread out and go both directions, but there's also a pressure this way. And I think one of the reasons I am inspired about wanting to give this talk is because I would love to equip everybody in this room with the ability to understand what marketers need in order to be able to compete effectively and maybe compete against some of these technologies and deliver what people need, frankly. A thing that I did in preparation for this, you'll maybe see the Google autofill there. I did this by accident, and it was jaw-dropping results. So if you see, like, on the left-hand, on the right-hand side, we see marketing. If you type in marketing for WordPress into Google, it will suggest a bunch of stuff. And it's pretty quick, like, oh, email marketing, or affiliate marketing, or inbound marketing, or other things like that. If you type in marketing for Adobe into Google, it comes back and suggests, well, cloud, analytics, LinkedIn, stuff, blah, 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 blah. You type marketing for Drupal, and it's just like, I've never heard those words together. It's a little bit sad. Yeah, perhaps after today, now, like, this presentation is going to, suddenly, I'm claiming the namespace. A lot of people, I think, have followed my trajectory. And again, we have the saying, come for the code, stay for the community. And certainly my own trajectory as well. Like, we come from a technology side, and we sort of appreciate the engineering and the structured data and some cool things like that. But we don't necessarily realize what the people who are using this technology ultimately need to do. And those are marketers. So, the other thing, so I'm going to break a rule. I have a team of people. I do developer relations at Pantheon. I have a team of people, some of whom are in this audience. And we do things like get trained on how to present, because that's part of what we're supposed to do, and you should be good at the things you do. One of the rules that we have about presenting is never apologize for your presentation. But I'm going to break it, because breaking rules is also interesting. I don't know how long this is, like, I tried to gauge this level to myself about 3 years ago. And I don't know, like, some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about might be super basic. And I don't want to be insulting. I definitely don't, want to also assume too much knowledge, because there's a lot of acronyms in marketing, just like in tech. There's a lot of stuff. So, like, really basic level, marketing is just telling people who you are and what you do, right? It's just like, hey, I'm Drew. I do these things. It's not even on a business. Like, I told you at the beginning of this that I do some stuff for Pantheon, and I also like to cook. That's marketing. Now we can have a conversation. Maybe you're interested in cooking. That's all marketing is. It's like letting people know who you are and what you do. It's really pretty simple at its core. From now on, I'll be talking about digital marketing, because that's where we live. Digital marketing uses a lot of technology. It is, and we're going to look at a bunch of that technology. Because it's all in this technology, all these technological tools are being used, measurements are really, really important. I'm curious how many people here think of themselves as web developers, if you could just show of hands, as developers. All right, cool. All right, so as somebody who, again, has moved from that world, one of the things that I find reassuring about programming is oftentimes there's like a clean sort of acceptance criteria. Like, I'm done when the thing does the thing it's supposed to do. Like, what needs to happen is you click add to cart and it's added to cart, or whatever the thing is. Marketing is harder. It's about communications. When is communication done? There's no clear little ding, I communicated, everybody knows all the things. That, like, communication is like communication. It's a different kind of problem. So what you do is you do a lot of incremental measurements. How often am I communicating? Did it look like you were interested in that? And you start looking and like, did people, were their eyes glazed over? Or were they engaged? So a lot of measurements are taken. There are a ton of acronyms, and I've got a bunch of them that we'll be sharing and talking through, and hopefully in a really simple way, because actually I think ultimately all of them are pretty unpackable. And also, just as a common misconception, marketing is different than sales. Marketing is telling people what you do. Sales is, they say, oh, I really want one of those things, or I really, tell me about cooking, or tell me about Pantheon, or whatever, and then we have a dialogue. Marketing is kind of putting the message out there. Sales is figuring out whether or not you're a fit for each other. So sales and marketing, how many people have seen some version of this before? Cool, that's most hands actually, okay, all right. So this, I think is so they always talk about the sales and marketing funnel, right? This is the basic idea that there's, for example, 10,000 people who know about what you do. Maybe 1,000 of them might be interested. 100 of them might be serious, like, oh yeah, I actually really want to know about cooking. And then 10 who are like, no, like, teach me how to cook, or whatever. There are many, many variations of the sales and marketing funnels. One of the ones that I think is actually pretty good, I mean, like, there are all sorts of sub-varieties. The R variety, the pirate metrics, happens to be actually quite good for business like Pantheon's, which is like a software as a service, is acquisition, awareness, something, retention, revenue, referral, and it's Googleable. But like there are a lot of different flavors of a sales and marketing funnel. There'll be one that's maybe more specific to, whatever different industry is, but this is the basic pattern. People start, a lot of people are aware, some folks are interested, a few of them are actually ready to do something, want to do something now, and 10 are actually going to do it. In the web world, I think we know what these things are, but just to be explicit about it, in the awareness stage, the things that we do in the web space that are about awareness is like blog posts, how-to guides. This is where SEO lives, putting together advertising to bring people to your site. The interest stage maps a little bit more to something like webinars or ebooks or newsletters or white papers. And then the decision is you're actually picking up the phone to talk to somebody, or you're clicking add to cart, or yes, subscribing to the newsletter because I actually really do want to donate next time you have a fun pledge drive, whatever. And then the action would be actually clicking checkout or clicking donate now. The difference between awareness and interest, so like all of those things, that's just kind of web content. I'm curious, anybody here has an impression for why ebooks or newsletters would be different than blog posts, like why I'm classifying them differently. Awareness, interest being webinars or white papers. Why? What's the difference?
Because they take more time to consume.
Yeah, yep, that's definitely one thing. It's like you're offering more, you're taking more time to do it, for sure. There's something else as well. Or at least one more thing I'm thinking of.
You even give them a change of an email or some way to contact the individuals to follow up?
Yep. All of those things require you to give a little bit of information, typically at least. So you sign up for a webinar, you sign up for an ebook, and that's you expressing a little bit more interest, even if you use your super fancy Gmail, like don't spam me email, you're still doing a little bit more. And this, again, becomes something that a marketer, and like a lot of the acronyms we're going to unpack, will measure these different activities. And again, they're all imperfect, it's just communication. But the things that are at an interest level are different than the things that are at an awareness level. Attending a webinar, downloading an ebook, something like that, is a different, you'll be measuring a different level of interest. And so, because, well actually, to talk about that a little bit more, so if we go back, we got that 10,000 people at the top, 1,000 people at the next one, 100 people at the next, the third one, and 10 at the bottom. There are two ways, if you want to get, so again, coming back to these numbers, say at the end of the day, you would like to change that 10 into a 15. There are a number of different things you could do. If you want to get 10 people donating, instead I want to have 15 people donating. That's what I want. How could you do that? Ideas. We're brainstorming. In terms of any of those numbers.
Make 5,000 more people aware.
Yes. So if we did, perfect, exactly. So we went to 1,500 people aware. Now presumably we go to 1,500 or 15,000 people aware, 1,500 interested, 150 serious, 15. Boom, done. What's another way?
Invest more in any activity at any part of the funnel. So
Yeah.
if it were a conversation you're having at the decision bit, maybe you put more sales or support agents there who
Mm-hmm.
have conversations with people.
Yeah, if you realize, so right now we're losing, it's 10% each time. So what I just heard there was you could invest more in any of those different stages to basically make it better for people. So instead of 1,000 interested, that becomes 100 serious, maybe you get 200 serious because you give them really great customer service. They're like, I really like what you do. So you would up it. Why? And like figuring out exactly how you do that is hard, but invest some more time and energy to give yourself more people so you get 200 serious, which then becomes 20 ready. And this is the way marketers think of the things that they do and track. So you're either increasing your quantity of numbers or increasing the quality, like making the funnel, like sort of visually, this funnel is very sharp. It is coming in rapidly. We're losing 90% each time. What if you only lost 80% each time? All right. So there are, again, a ton of technologies used in marketing. And the way you sort of break down how good am I doing, what should I focus on, is you look at a lot of these numbers. And you look at the different conversions and how fast and how rapidly the funnel narrows. And you either increase at the top of the funnel, turn that 10,000 into 15,000 as was suggested, or you improve the conversion rate. You improve the number that are actually filling out the form or doing something else. So it's not 10% each time, it's 20% each time or something like that. And then you report on all of it. Now, how many people have seen this particular beauty? Yes. This is, I see about 5-6 hands here, yes. And an emphatic one. This is the marketing technology stack. So, up, and it's hard for me to read from even here. I'll give it like a task. Start trying to find Drupal. Mobile marketing, display and programmatic advertising, search and social advertising. This is digital asset management. There's advocacy, loyalty, and referrals, influence, e-commerce marketing, e-commerce platforms. They're two different things. And with a zillion companies on each of them, business customer intelligence data. One of them stands out to me. Vendor analysis is its own crowded little box. Because when you're dealing with 5,000-ish technologies to pick from for whatever you're going to try and measure and implement, all of them slightly different, nuanced and whatnot, there's actually a crowded little box for analyzing the other tools. called vendor analysis. So Gartner, for example, lives down here, and a whole bunch of other things. In the web space, we're going to zoom in right here. This is where content management lives, web content management specifically. We zoom in. Has anyone seen Drupal yet? It might still be pretty hard from in the back. If you see it, just yell bingo. It's kind of hard to spot. Or even a familiar name, frankly.
Bingo.
Bingo. Where is it?
It's directly under the E of experience, CMS and web experience.
Yes, here we are. Drupal, yay! Also hiding in here are a lot of other things. Interestingly enough, one of the things my eyes go to is Acquia over here. I said, wait, aren't they just Drupal? That's weird. But yeah, so Adobe's in here. Anybody ever tried the grid? This is an AI-delivered layout system. I've got an account. It's kind of cool and buzzwordy, but I'm not sure it's actually that compelling in the end. Yeah, so that's the space. These are the other things that a marketing technologist, and so also just to be super direct about this, this is a very technical field. So sometimes those of us who might build websites for a living think of ourselves as pretty technical because we program and things like that. Being able to assess and deliver and choose and pick and implement all of these different things is very technical. Marketing has become very technical. So that's the little space that we live in. I wanted to unpack some of the jargons. So based on all of that, I hope that we can actually maybe understand what some of these three-letter acronyms, TLAs, are, and where they might fit. So, CAC. So all of these things, again, lots of TLAs. They all seem to have three for some reason. Customer acquisition cost. Where does anybody want to, any bold soul want to go ahead and guess what that might indicate and where that might fit in the funnel? Like what part of funnel would customer acquisition cost be talking about? Any bold soul?
Action.
What's that?
Action.
Action, yes. Yes, absolutely, action. And what's it measuring? So if I've got a 7 customer acquisition, it doesn't matter what the number is. What's it measuring? Anybody? Another person?
How much it costs to get one customer?
Yep. CAC sounds pretty like, whoa, that's jargony. No, it's actually pretty simple. It's customer acquisition cost. If your marketing and sales team, etc., costs $1 million a year, $100 a year, whatever the thing is, and you get 10 customers, it'd be, well, we're going to go simple math. All right. Your marketing and sales cost is $100 per year. Awesome. You get 10 customers. Your customer acquisition cost is 100 divided by 10. I probably should make some slides with math on it. Your customer acquisition cost would be $10. If you spent $1 million in marketing and sales and got 10 customers, it would be $100,000. Presuming I did that math correctly. Pretty straightforward. Something to measure. Something marketers care a lot about. It's basically their scorecard. I mean, like at the end of the day, that's actually probably one of the most important little grading things. However, one of the other pieces of this funnel, and oftentimes, so I mentioned this as a sales and marketing funnel. You have multiple ways to measure because they kind of cover different things and give you different nuances. Marketing lives basically about the midpoint of decision and above for most organizations. So if you think about this for yourself, if, again, like 10,000 people might be interested, 1,000 of them, or 10,000 aware, 1,000 interested, if you tried to have a conversation with 1,000 people to see who's actually really interested in cooking, That'd be a lot of conversations. That's too many. You don't want one human being trying to have 1,000 conversations. It's just not going to go well for anybody. However, at some point, when you get down to 100 or 10 or something like that, you're at the right place to have, again, a conversation with someone. Someone's actually interested enough to, you're pretty sure they actually want to be a donor, right? So at that point, they will move the conversation to a human being, and that becomes a sales conversation. So sales is effectively about the mid, again, it's like a kind of a rough line, but sales lives below this. Marketing lives above it, right? And again, I'm pointing at the screen, so that's not helpful for anyone watching. I just pointed at decision being the sort of halfway point, right? So because customer acquisition cost measures the whole thing, it's also the salespeople. So if you're a marketer, you might say, well, I did my part really well, but those salespeople, they're really expensive. You ever seen the expense accounts and like the go places, and do they need to eat steak and lobster every night? Probably. So there becomes a conversation like that. Another really common, big, important thing, net new names, NNN. Rolls right off the tongue. Anybody want to guess? Where is that on the funnel? What's it measuring?
Interest.
Yes. Oh, no, actually, awareness. So what else is where I'll put that. And what's it measuring, though? I mean, it's kind of terrible to ask somebody to do this, but I'm going to just wait. Net new.
It's
Yeah.
getting someone's name recorded, but
Oh, you're right.
so you don't have their name until you know they're interested.
Yes, you're right. So this is why we believe in the power of groups. It is absolutely interest. Thank you. Yes. All right. So it is the number of net new names. It is absolutely interest. And wow. Thank you. Good correct. Again, could seem a lot jargony, but you're just basically measuring how many people are hitting that interest funnel, like where you've got their name. MQL, Marketing Qualified Lead. What might that be? That one could be maybe a little bit more esoteric, but anybody want to feel bold? Where does that fit in the grid? What could it be indicating? Yeah, basically. We think they have consumed enough stuff, like they signed up for two, like, and it's going to be arbitrary, whatever your company or organization is. It's like they have subscribed to our donor newsletter and also attended 2 of our fundraisers and other things, so we think they're ready. Marketing thinks based on the activity that they've done, on all this stuff we've been tracking and knowing about, the fact that they filled out the form, did the name drop at the event, whatever the thing was, there's enough of it. I think these people are actually pretty interested in actually becoming donors, or actually kicking a cooking glass, or whatever it is. Awesome. CTA.
Call to action.
Yeah, what's that? That's actually not, it's not on funnel. It's a different thing, but I put it in there because it's all the time, it's constantly talking. Who here has heard the word CTA in the last week? All right, not everybody raise their hand, so somebody tell the rest of us what a CTA is.
It's getting interaction from a user, so like clicking a button,
Yeah.
leading them somewhere.
Yes.
Something.
You have a page, it's getting an interaction from the user, right? Just to restate that for recording. You have a page, what's the page supposed to do? At the bottom of the page, when they read the page, they're going to sign up the webinar, or they're going to just find out a little bit more information. Like, what is the thing we want the user to do if this page was good for them? It's call to action. Cost per click. That's super easy, right? Okay, maybe some of these things. Cost per click, anything? Anybody guess? CPC?
Awareness.
Yeah, awareness. It's about advertising, right? Cost per lead. May want to give a...
It's interest, but I guess it would depend on
Yeah.
how your organization defines like a true lead.
Yeah, so there'll be some mush in that one. Yeah, what's a lead, basically. But still thrown around as a 3-letter acronym. And there'll be some organizational decisions about what constitutes each of these things for you. CRM, customer relationship management, or Contacts, the word CRM itself seems to have like 5 different versions of CRM, but customer relationship management is, anybody have a working version for what a CRM does? Like, what's the working definition? What does a CRM do, or what is an example of a CRM?
Store information about your customers?
Information about your customers and
Well, you said example, I said Salesforce.
Salesforce. Salesforce is the big one, right? Salesforce is the very large CRM that seems to be taking on all comers. And then your click-through rate. Again, it's like how many people click through on something they were exposed to actually get to your site. I'm curious. I'm actually really hopeful. I probably should have asked this first. How many people 10 minutes ago didn't know all of those things? Okay, yay! All right, that was a lot. Okay, that was. I'm very happy. How many of you now feel like, seriously, that they dressed it up as an acronym? Is that like mostly the same? Hopefully, some. All right. Again, you measure all of these things at these different stages, and you report on the numbers. What's your click-through rate? What's your cost per click? What's your CT? And because of that, you can then, there's a lot of sort of mathing involved, right? Is it 10,000 people becomes 5,000 people? Is it 10,000 people become 100 people? And that's what you're doing as a marketer. So you're constantly looking at all of these things. So based on that, marketers are really interested in measurable stuff. If you can do things that's measurable, that in the end is how they're getting measured, right? So when they're actually talking to the people around them, hey, Drew, are you doing a good job? Yeah, I do a great job. Okay, how good? Well, 17. 17 what? You like, oh yeah, our web traffic is up. Our conversion rates are a little low this month. We did send a lot of MQLs through though. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. That means I just sent somebody that was actually interested in us to the sales team, etc. Right? And you report on all of that stuff. And so because they get measured constantly, they want to know how you might be able to help them if you're going to be working with them. How can you help me with measurable things? So, the things that are very interesting to them are measurable things, like improving traffic, or social media activity, or form completions of any type, donate, shopping cart, etc. Any history you might have dealing with donations or sales or signups, those are really, really, really interesting things. If you're in a situation where you're talking to a prospective client and you can share a track record on any of those things, that's incredibly powerful. Less interesting might be some of the things that some of us natively go to, which is some specifics about your process. Does anybody here, and I'll confess to this, like I used to run a web development firm, I used to do occasional sales, I would occasionally talk about our process. I also have a car. I go to the mechanic, actually the dealership, for the things that they do to cars. Rotate the tires and other things like that. If they took the time to tell me about the process they used to fix my car, I'd be really not interested. I would probably courteously listen. But I would much rather know that after this, your car will go another 40,000 miles without needing new tires. That's interesting. Knowing the kind of jack you used to raise the car, not interesting. I mean, maybe for trivia some night, but the particulars of your technology are really, unfortunately, when you have 5,000 plus technologies, it's a survival skill to not have to worry about the particulars of any of those technologies, or of too many of them. It's also a survival skill to be able to assess them, so I don't want to overstate that too strongly. Your years of experience and many other things like that are also plausibly not very interesting. So, with that, actually, I am through the material I wanted to talk about. And I hoped that would lead us to all maybe ask some, safe space. All of you may have come with questions. I invite a chance for conversation, but I'll just pause right there.
You being someone who transitioned from being a developer to a marketer, like what was the process like? What were the challenges that you faced in the process?
Okay, so question was what were the difficulties of transitioning from a developer to a marketer? And I still, I'm in the marketing chain of command. I do something called developer relations. And like anything in life, there's some complexity there. So I'm in the marketing org part of the org chart. However, we do things that are very much involved with like creating documentation and supporting users and putting together code repos and things that are plausibly kind of not marketing as well. So there's, if you look at 100 companies that have developer relations as a discipline, 30 of them might have them in a marketing, 30 of them might actually be in more of a support sort of org chart or other things like that, or actually in the engineering division is another place. Although I'm in marketing and I've come to understand it quite a bit, I also don't necessarily primarily think of myself as a marketer. I do think of myself as a team lead of a bunch of engineers. Still, like it's a fair amount of transition. So for me personally, I started doing development and was decent at it, but then realized that I had better people that could do the job better, and where I seemed to have, like, my special contribution was much more in communication and helping the team get, figure things out and get along together and understand what the client needs and do those things. So I probably all along the whole way have just been a natural communicator that also could code if push came to shove. But coding was more employable at the point in which I did that. So it's been a pretty natural path for me. There's a lot of professional, interesting things that happened along the way. I grew a team, I built a product, Pantheon bought that product. I've been with Pantheon for about 3 years now. There's, stories in there. But I think it's been a long progression of communicating more and more as being the primary skill that I need to exercise and improve. Anybody else have questions about unanswered questions? Especially, we have about 10 minutes.
I've got a thought. So I think at DrupalCon this year, I think if I remember correctly, it was in the Grease Node, or there was some discussion about marketers and their value and use of Drupal and like more turnkey solutions. I wonder what your thoughts are on there's a lot of discussion about making Drupal have modern JavaScript or making the admin UI the best it can be.
Yeah.
And where do you think having turnkey solutions that really appeal to marketers stands as far as that major priorities?
It should be very major. I think it should be very major, and that's what Dries was. This is what I think is happening. Is what Pantheon thinks is happening to some extent. Again, it's not. I don't want to overproject this, but it's also what Google seems to think is happening too. The amount of people thinking about marketing and Drupal together. Admin experience and good experience for marketers is, I think, really important. We have great technology already. Drupal is quite technical. It doesn't, in my opinion, need more technical. It now needs to branch out. And that's what I heard of the Dries Note. In the Dries Note at DrupalCon this last year, Dries mentioned, this towards the end actually, I went and rewatched it. But he talked about this for maybe 3 to 5 minutes. It wasn't a huge part of it, what he was talking about. I was also there at the Business Summit. And this is a huge part of what the Business Summit was talking about. So making Drupal relevant to marketers, broadly speaking, is, I think, very, very important for Drupal's next, growth and journey in existence. Probably one of the biggest challenges. And if you're, again, actually, Steve, I think, is going to be talking tomorrow about the new WordPress experience, actually, which is really cool, called Gutenberg. WordPress 5 is coming out with a really cool new admin experience. It's going to be it's going to be nice. I was telling a friend earlier, I think that experience. So, Steve, what time are you talking?
1:45.
1:45. All right, cool. So, if you're interested in what that might look like, go check out this talk out. I was telling a different friend about this earlier this week and saying that that experience might be a little bit like the iPhone. That might be selling it a little bit too much. But smartphones existed before the iPhone. There was the BlackBerry, and people used them. And there were other things too. And then the iPhone came out, and it was just like glossy icons. And like, BlackBerries already exist, why do we need an iPhone? I mean, whatever. It's kind of, in one sense, just sort of like the engineering critique of the iPhone is like, nothing new here. However, the user interface was so nice, so convenient, that we all went to iPhones because it was so easy to use. And maybe, I don't know how good the data model is underneath an iPhone versus a BlackBerry, but that was the end for the BlackBerry, right? And I think that is an overstatement of what the WordPress 5 Gutenberg experience is like, but I think we shouldn't cast aspersions at something because you can find some technical flaws in the implementation about, for example, structured data. Again, I don't want to project that too strongly, but I think something to consider, something to be aware of. There was another question back there, sir. Or you, I think, had a question earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, but I was listening for governance.
Oh, okay, right. When it comes back to you, no problem.
Oh, I don't. It seems like good marketing websites that people are driving people to the website. It's not just generic searches. So we had a client in bathrooms. Okay, remodel bathrooms.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people want to be in the business. It's kind of a crap job. So anyway, he advertised on TV. Morning show. This, teacher quote, blah, blah. He also once a year gave away a free bathroom. And it's really, but it always at the bottom of his thing said www.this.com.
Mm-hmm.
Tremendous amount of traffic.
Yeah.
When we measured it on Google Analytics, it was driving a lot of people there. I guess that's the awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you want to get, again, like, if we look at these, where did my numbers go? Where's my numbers? Yeah. So in his case, he maybe needed to do 50 bathrooms a year, or 10, or 30, I don't know, a bunch. Oh, well, yeah, if it's a big company, yeah. So we'll just say 10, because easy. If you want to get to 10, like, just get 10,000 people aware, or whatever the numbers are for his business, and measure that over time and realize, okay, that's how business becomes a system, a process. Like, all right, last year we had 38 people that were ready to do bathrooms. This year we've got 45. What's our cost per customer? Okay, so that means we need to make sure we get in front of 10 gazillion people. So that's, this much in advertising. Great. Does the math work out? Okay. There we go. We're going to buy the ads or do something else. Anyone else? Right. All right. Well, I will declare us complete. I'm just going to mention also just contribution sprints on Sunday. I should be mentioning the activities tonight. So we have a wonderful, casual, delightful party with a food truck and beverages and games and karaoke and casual. It's very low key. Plus one's welcome. That's tonight. And then this Sunday, there's contribution sprints. If you're interested in getting involved a little bit more into Drupal and helping make it better for those of us who will continue to use it today, tomorrow, and beyond, which is hopefully all of us. So, thank you. And I'm happy to stick around for